policymakers in the Council of Foreign Relations. Monetary Fund part of this? Well, I would say the International Monetary Fund has certainly been set up for the purpose of facilitating that transfer of sovereignty and transfer of wealth on the road. Right, we elected Mr. Conservative. Let me just finish the point, because otherwise we'll have an unanswered question. That you are looking at a group that has worked to bring about the dissolution of national sovereignty on the road to world government. And certainly you're familiar with the local professor Carol Quigley, who's been part of your club, in which he admitted all this. And he said in his book, Tragedy and Hope, the only thing I disagree is that we've worked to keep it a secret. You see Arthur Schlesinger Jr. writing way back in 1940, said, yes, this is the hidden policy of America. But we can't tell the American public because they're too unsophisticated to see the value. What is the instrumentality of world government? What is the instrumentality?
So it's in kind of world
That's the
government.
silliest statement I ever heard. You don't read anything like that. Let me suggest that you read the May-June issue of the
And
Forest
times.
for yourself.
There was a conspiracy. A conspiracy
Oh,
with
he
the
didn't
most
use the
dominant.
word. Oh, he didn't use the word conspiracy. He said the objective. Let me finish. I'll tell you. He said that the objective, the secret policy, which we can't tell the American public because they're not sophisticated enough to evaluate, is that through a steady result of the erosion of new deals, we bring the American society to the left, right, and through the concept of the non-contained, we merge into the vital center of the socialist left. Those are not mine.
I think John Kennedy was a member of that conspiracy.
Let me ask you this. The world.
Watch body language. All these snakes, reptilians, hidden elsewhere. Stop hacking me. How's it
A lot
going?
of them said, look, we were utopian.
Don't hack in my computer.
We can't. A lot of them came in Kennedy's government. Schlesinger was in there when they were fighting in Vietnam. Watched the effort in Vietnam. Schlesinger was behind the Bay of Pigs. In other words, look, isn't there some move that occurred in the post-war era that now has been dissipated because nobody believes the utopian idea of world government anymore? Well, I think there are those that realize that moving straight from a prototype of the United Nations into world government perhaps is tactically impossible. But phasing out, increasing the national sovereignty into regional government, and phasing out sovereignties into international treaties and multiplayer. The whole area, the whole movement towards interdependence. Yeah. If people quietly working together for evil objectives,
No,
two or more, that by definition is a conspiracy. You have by their own admission, you look at the Tragedy and Hope by Professor Carol Quigley, who's a member of this elitist group. He said, sure, we've been working. Sure, we've been collaborating with communism. Yes, we're
communism never went away.
working for global accommodation. Yes, we're working for world government. The only thing I object to is that we have kept it a secret. And I think we've gone so far along, we should come out and say,
I bet you $1.50 that Bill Casey doesn't know who Professor Quigley is. I don't.
Georgetown a number of years ago. He died a couple of years ago, and he wrote The Tragedy and Hope. It's very.
You want to look in Child Action Commission, educateself.org on this stream on what I'm sharing, because you gotta go back in history and see where the world is now.
Noted member of the club, Tom. You've got to broaden your reading. That's right.
Yeah, the Reunion Club. I think that's California.
What I ought to do is read more about conspiracies, and that's why I'm interested in.
Well, I'll tell you what you ought to do is go back and look at your founder, Edward Mandell House, because he wrote the book Philip Drew Administrator. And in this, Colonel House said that what he envisioned for the world was a world government along socialist lines.
Yeah, one world government and socialism. A social credit saying system is already coming in England.
As envisioned by Karl Marx. Now that's your leader. And I'll go back to the beginning.
His leader was Woodrow Wilson.
He's right. You've got to go back to the beginning.
Do you think he was a
Woodrow
communist?
Wilson was his follower. And I think Edward Mandell House dominated Wilson, not the other way around.
And so Edward Mandell House, that was we ought to make that clear. He was President Wilson.
There's people slowly waking up to putting the dots together, and that's good. So many distractions in the past today, over 3 days, there's the blood beam alignment. It's very rare. So anything could happen to false flags.
That's ego. That's correct. Yeah.
So he is Bill Villain from which all these conspiracies.
No.
All those years ago they called it conspiracies. It's not now. In fact,
He is a major figure, but there has been, unfortunately, in the West, an element. There are good members in the Council on Foreign Relations, dedicated patriotic
correlation. See? All linked up.
people. You've got Sproul Brayton, who was a member of the Council of Birch Society and Council on Foreign Relations.
Birch Society, that's right. It's all Freemasonry linked. Bloodline families. They don't like it that he knows the truth, and that's an old video. Sort of frequencies going on at the moment. Oh gosh.
You've got some dedicated people, but the driving forces have very clearly been willing to collaborate, subsidize, work the technology transfer for what they feel.
Wow. This is evidence that I don't TR News will. You need to be upfront about who you claim. That individual, she's never getting hacked. You're promoting her. Snakes and demons take over. You see, I'm always getting hacked. You can see my channel. You see I'm on Shadowband online. Mara Labs Military Mind Control. You see the subjects are Kota, well Kappa. See how many subscribers? Well, that's YouTube land for you. But the Project Looking Glass, the time travel, you know, I'll cover all the evidence of that. I'll cover about the skies, the comets, Nibiru, you know, starseeds, subjects, changes of human body. You see the evidence. I'll cover the gang stalking, trauma-based mind control. I'll show the evidence of Freemasonry, evidence of gas stalking. Just show you how I get hacked. So the playlist is open. I'll show the brain-to-face targeted program. Now, with certain individuals' channels, she's not showing nothing of this, and nor is Will. It's only suddenly started pumping up loads of. There are clones and demons and mind control, reptilian, shape-shifting demonic entities out there. They feed off your negativity. Bill Cooper, William Bill Cooper. All those years ago, I got all this out. A long time ago. And when you just become enlightened, I show evidence of Planet X, Nibiru, Winwood, and webcams as well. My 2 channels taken down. I do a recording. What is the military black ops and Mara Labs is when the kidnapping of the body, how it's done. One needs to, I've got to find the video, actually I've saved it. I'll play this on TI. The targeting of innocent people. Okay. There's so much going on in the world these days. And this individual, after call her out, I'll have to just say, just be careful about being dragged into drama. And this is a spiritual war. I want to know. Let me check. I've got to have a quick look. This is what you want to be careful of for this individual. It's deception. I think she's a he, she. There's no business of mine what sexuality she is, but I do believe that she's working with other people behind the scenes. So bear with me. There's another channel made up. Will has set this channel up and he's focusing. I do believe they're very friendly. Will and this woman I didn't even know, and I'll put in the chat where's the evidence. Okay. So KiwiFarms.net is a company based in London. I made it quite clear this company hosts this website, which is in England. Okay. They're posting and just taking a pee out of people's posts, and it's an adult content website, right? And it's just ridiculous. There's no point for that. The gentleman that really shows is he's in America. He's living up a bloody band, for goodness me. They're homeless. So this is what I need to say, you just gotta be careful. I'll play that stuff now. But anyway, let's get back to that. So she's still going live, right? You really want to be careful. And I'm going to show her. Just read between the lines on this. Is she still going live? Don't know if it's going to be. They're going to get it working. I'll get hacked. She claims she never gets hacked. When you're really targeted and gaslighted, you're always getting hacked. Okay, here we go. Thought as much. Will, he's getting all his supporters in there. Right. Education purposes, fair use.
It was bullshit. It was total shit.
How come she's able to get away playing music?
Coffee on people because they weren't messed up. That is the level of brainwashing that was going on during that time. And I'm the only one who saw it. I mean, Twitter, YouTube, it was filled up with people having these just confrontations with assholes. And Tammy Hess, I swear to God, if there's not footage of her beating down some fucking because her mask is below her nose.
I know stuff about something about Scotty.
Tammy went on more than one person for her mask. You just know she did. She's a mask hole if I ever met one. I really hope that she got like all the boosters. Oh, I really hope. Tammy has went and got.
Oh right, I got it.
Is he your best interest?
This is what you want to watch. Nappy Roots Head. Just gonna get the camera. You wonder what real life is like? Call me nappy, targeted individual. He and many other people like him. That's a real serious issue there. And he's the most genuine man going. What you just saw, that individual, she's not he or she. So, I'll talk about characteristics and the shape shifting, the demonic entities of a certain individual who is on the chat of that individual just now. So, you've got dark artists, a drive in the rain. You've got fighting to save democracy's a miracle.
Hi guys, I'm going to make this quick, or at least as quick as possible. This is a continuation of my last video. Sure.
These are genuine people, not just like a talking shop. Will not say nothing. It's just to make, it's just so much divide. So this perpetrator, this individual was making it up. I'm going to put a ledge for drama, for views. Don't get fooled. TI News. Right, see how he's been putting it up loads on loads. And people have been questioning about his channel and his content. Right. Let me just observe, nothing against the individual because I don't know them. Right, look at this. Look at what he's promoting. Same people. Same group of people. Okay. So that individual just put on the chat, it's the same one as that one. Okay. He means well. So, go back section. He joined last year, appeared out of nowhere. Okay. He's now got an Nosity page. Let's have a look then. What's he put up there? I do believe he works in IT. It's got the same logo design. Oh my god, look at what he's doing. So sad, isn't it? Yeah, I knew he was being supported by a woman in Canada, SHP. I knew he's in California and there's a woman in California. He was going on Twitter to troll people, you know, to get them to say, oh, come join this, come join that. And that soon after, people come off my channels got taken down. Then you had the individual set up this. Now, what is got here? Let's have a look. Is it getting up? Beginning of this year, February.
Rest in peace. Fix
He knows his way around computers. Yeah. No disrespect to the individual, I don't know him personally, but as you now got getting hacked again, isn't it? But this is almost trying to find. And it's been hacked as well. So yeah, he seems genuine. Just be careful. Just know where your computers.
Welcome.
This is the one he shows his face in. Don't know what he's trying to show me the other ones. No, they do, but like that one. Scott's done B2K about the targeting he goes through. This is 5 months ago, and he wasn't respectful on this one, right? Totally disrespectful. So that's what got my warning bells about him. Kiani said about Nappy. Why single him out? Kiani as well. Won't you go out and speak to him? If you're TI, go and show support. And that's what got my alarm bells. Because he's the most genuine guy. Chinese videos is van going off. And don't go on his channel. So, True Colour shows itself. Okay. Going on my channel now. I'm just gonna call it a day. Snakes and demons. So. See, if he comes in my chat, this is evidence. So much deception. Mr. Man. All these other subjects I know about. So much deception. Straw man. All these other subjects are not. Let me just mute myself. I really just want to find that video that I had up earlier. I have to go through. Where did I save it? I saved it somewhere, but I can't remember where. Matt Spires, I think it is called. Super Soldier Program. Let's have a look. There's dark web out there. Freemasonry. NK Ultra Mind Control. Super Soldiers. Might have saved it there. How Saturday Night's track, and there's other things that goes on. I'm sure I saved it somewhere else. There's really good history about Nephilims. Yeah. About evidence of witnesses of shapeshifting. There's the one particular one I wanted to find because I think it's important because it just changes everything really in a lot of ways. I really don't know where I'll put it now. I'll place it in a playlist somewhere. I'll go to that individual's video. Might be this channel, might be a link along with it in the playlist. Let me just have a look. I'll just say. No, it's a shame. Okay. The Underground Tour. Those pyramids of history. Masonic symbolism. The history of the royal family of Babylon. There's some really good documentaries and mass mind control. Albert Pike. This is a really good one. And let's see what else. Just bear with me. I've got to get some rest at that point. Where is that? Can't just find it now. It's not what I was trying to find to come back to square one. Yeah. Just go show. All goes to show. All the happy I get. Right, let's just go back. I'll call it a night. There's just a tuck in my head. Frequencies right now. Oh, this is unbelievable. I saw a film earlier, it was demonic. you know, it was hinting about change of human DNA, mixing it with non-human. Oh, this is good channel. Well, I'm gonna like to say go and check this out too, because he's done some really good stuff.
They're also just as likely to turn on them once the operation's done. You know,
Yeah.
as we've seen before, you know, some of those people that are involved in racial justice and all that stuff, they turn very quickly against these racial different types of minorities as soon as they don't go along with the program.
It's, it's divide and conquer. So any polarity that exists, let's divide and conquer. Let's divide men from women. Let's make women hate men and men hate women. Well, the secret society that is behind the Thule Society believes that their ancestors came from Mars, and so it's a huge spiritual belief for them, and there's a desire to return there. And I think that there's a great deal also of supremacy, or those ideas, those themes are definitely there as well in the Mars origin myth, as I discussed in episode 5, unfortunately. Yeah, it's definitely a sort of like a dark secret society that's definitely thousands of years old. That from my research and from what I can even feel, I believe that they manifested in Germany for a time, but they were actually a global brotherhood. They were a global society that manifested in Germany because it was the right place for them to carry out that kind of operation at that time. But it was really a global brotherhood, a global kind of what I would call a dark brotherhood, and maybe even harmonic brotherhood. And this is also why you see when Germany does lose war, the top scientists, the top people do not pay for their crimes. And it's because I think their skills were so valuable, though I think that they were highly skilled. I think it's primarily because they were part of this global brotherhood. And that even though they had lost this public war, that's not how the brotherhoods work. It's that they got shuffled around, not because they were amazing and incredible, but I think primarily because they were part of this underground system and they weren't going to try their own.
right, they were covered.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned, you brought up Paperclip in your series too.
Project Paper.
And this is something which, when you get into that history, is just hanging out there as this interesting anomaly. Yes, we took over so many of those scientists. We saved so many of them from judgment at Nuremberg. In fact, guys like Dornberger and von Braun, and we reanimated their command status back when they joined NASA and founded NASA. But you seem to read a lot into this taking on of Paperclip, which was making the space thing take on the identity of the Nazi ideology.
Yes, and that became clear to me when I saw suddenly Elon Musk enter the scene.
Right.
And it's Mars, 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 Mars. Everything's going to Mars. And that is what made me realize, like, this is a Nazi. This is part of the Thule Society's belief. They believe that they're from Mars, and that their progenitors are from Mars. That if they probably go to Mars, they'll find these bones or ruins from their progenitors. And so when I saw Elon Musk coming to the surface and talking about Mars all the time, that was a really big red flag for me. And then when you look at Werner Bach Project Mars, which is sort of like a fiction piece,
Yeah.
but it has a lot of facts in it. So it's
Yeah, very technical, right?
yeah, exactly. It's like fiction, but it's technical, which is the typical occult method of sharing information, right? Without having to take full responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
That fiction element's in there, and then you can say whatever you want. And then when you look at it and you see, listen, Werner von Braun mentions by name Elon, which is not a common name. I don't think I'd ever really heard of it.
Yeah.
So, he mentions him by name and says, and describes the government on Mars, and that the Elon, which I think he uses also as like a government moderation board or parliament system, is going to, colonize Mars and govern Mars. And this is in Werner von Braun's book.
Wow.
And you see that aspect, and you're like, this is a direct connection. What is really going on here? And you see, this is a religion. This is a religion that is taking political, social control.
Right. Well, let's talk about the romance of Musk that's been going on. And this is really fascinating because, of course, stepping in, buying Twitter, say, I believe in free speech and all the rest. The sale's not even yet complete. And all these people are lining up saying, Elon, say free speech and all the rest. And if it was a move towards saying, you know what, we're getting killed in the marketplace because they're acting like fascists, and we're going to move it back towards free speech, good.
Yes.
The marketplace is informing it. But let's not, imagine that it's kind of a humanitarian gesture. If it is, well, that's great. But what's been going on is really Elon has been, he's going to save the entire sphere of social media influence because he believes in free speech. And this is more of the hero attachment that he needs. They applied some of this during the Ukraine thing. They may have stepped in it because they've got one hero they're promoting there, Zelensky, who, is a comedian and an actor, and he's worth billions of dollars, which is kind of unusual.
Very unusual.
Yeah. This guy is not the way that they portray him, but they already have, all the merchandise and everything lined up for this guy and cinematic trailers of him as a hero. And, George W. Bush is visiting him and be like, what kind of guy, So, but it is weird because during the ramp up when that war started to kick in, Elon came in and said, I'm going to give Starlink to Ukraine. And this is placing him in a position of interfering in a war situation. Also, kind of getting the United States strangely involved in it. With this company being, so powerful in the U.S., and then him going over there and saying, don't worry, if Russia takes down your internet, I'll save you. And then the Ukrainian government on the ground like, thumbs up, Elon. So now involving a CEO of a corporation and this major tech innovator guy in the middle of war situations, and particularly when it comes to Russia, a potential World War III scenario, like a shooting war. So not just a Cold War. That's different. That's very different. And it's part of this archetype caricature that they're setting up with Elon of a hero leader who is the space president, and he can give orders from space.
Space president, that's exactly it. It's exactly it. It's really strange to see. It's like they're using the fact that he's so wealthy and that he's a corporation to do things politically that politicians couldn't do without oversight,
Right.
So he's out, it was actually strange when he did it because probably a lot of Elon supporters are also maybe more pro-Russia as well.
Yeah.
So it was an unusual move from I think that in a way I think would betray some of his own base.
Mm-hmm.
So that was unusual to see, but it's a way of bypassing an election, and it's a way of bypassing the Constitution. It's a way of bypassing any kind of checks and balances.
Oh, absolutely. Point. Well, you have the ability to research these things, not just historically and geopolitically, but you have this mystical talent and vision of being able to sweep in there. With what they're doing with Mars, beyond just what's on the record, what is it that's going on there? How do you interpret it or intuit it in terms of how they picture Mars?
I think that they picture Mars very differently than other people do because they're so much better informed than we are. And so what they know about space and about Mars is hundreds of years ahead of what we think. And we have to keep that in mind when they're doing these things, this idea that we're all discovering this together, we're all doing this together, and we're not. I mean, these groups, you know, even NASA and the people behind NASA, they know so much more about these things than us. And so we're not discovering this together, we're not in this together. We are being made to think that we're in this together, and they're very much aware of everything that's going on. And for that reason, I think pretty much the first narratives that we're going to see about disclosure, about space, all of that are going to be control, are going to be based on control and creating a new religion. That's, you know, what, and we have to get through that false element before we can, I think, build something meaningful. So
What would the elements of the space religion be? That there are anointed ones who originally set up civilization on Mars, and then little by little seeded the Earth and find the remnants and realize, oh, this is one group on Earth that leads everything.
exactly, that seems to be what the narrative is, and that seems to be a narrative that has been carefully propagated from work of Eric von Däniken and Utz Luderman in their book Chariots of Gods, which talks about ancient aliens, which basically literalizes all esoteric spiritual material into a physical event, or says that physical events or visitation are more important, or the most important primary aspect of our ones. When a lot of these ancient mystical texts are talking about things like form materializing from another plane, or spiritual things going on, like fall, which is actually like the biblical fall, which is a shift in density. They're describing that as, you know, alien creator gods coming to the planet and genetically modifying people. So we're losing the mysteries when we read these things, because we're losing our interconnectedness with nature, with each other. And this whole other narrative is coming in where everything is, you know, human beings were created like in by genetic engineering, by these gods that have laboratories on their spaceships. And it's just, we're losing this real understanding that exists in this world that is now. Things form and things disappear, and things shift in density, and human forms evolve over time, and we evolve through spiritual transmutation over time, and we're losing that aspect of it. And so that's what that whole scene is, the divergent paradigm. It's unnatural.
It's not aliens,
It's literalizing and materializing spiritual things to the point that they don't even resemble what they originally are.
No, because they're hybrids.
And you see
So there's a scientific reinterpretation of the entire creation story, right?
exactly. It's a scientific.
The Lion of Cain.
That's exactly what it is, and I think it goes very deep to even there being interdimensional beings or extraterrestrial beings that they connect with that have been doing that for a very long time and are initiating them into that belief set. And I think this could in fact involve a lot deeper conversations that once we understand this we can have. But this idea of these ancient aliens that have created the pyramids and anything that exists on Earth, like Pumapunku, or you know, the things, any legacy civilization from Atlantis, basically.
The Nazca lines, things that can only be seen from the air. Yeah,
These are built by aliens. They're not built by humans. These are built by our alien progenitor gods.
right.
Or these creator gods, and we are just children here. And that gets our entire history, as you've talked about on your show so much, which is, you know, Lemuria and and all of the stages that we've gone through as human beings to densify and materialize here. And also all of our achievements and accomplishments are done and attributed to these alien gods that are a proxy for God. These alien gods act as a proxy for God. And we don't have that divine connection or any power.
Right. Oh, that's fascinating, because you think of kingship and royalty in ancient times and how there was a lot of intermarriage as related to this, even as far back as the Egyptians. One of the people who was connected in all that research, Sitchin also,
Yes.
and he also was huge on this. And all they did in all of these shows for years were it was Sumeria, Anunnaki, so much so you were like, look, this is fascinating. Get it. I'm sick of hearing about it. And in like Ancient Aliens or Coast or anything like this, like, oh, Anunnaki, it's just like take it over the cliff. Unbelievable. But it is interesting because when you think about the royal bloodline thing, that came about as the result of beings that were kind of super normal, but they may have been super normal human beings, and they may not have been alien at all. And that system of this group that kept themselves apart from other groups who were, it's kind of the Amelius split that Casey talks about. The Amelius group wants to use the spiritual understanding, the technological understanding of Atlantis to
He covered
merge with the outer
2014,
spheres and get that,
2015,
go into the saintly
and Foxes
Beelzebub
talking
and
about
the wild guys
subjects are
are like,
similar.
oh,
And
we
he's
knew our neighbors.
got
So,
training in America.
They're
He's
groups,
very
so this
informative
particular line keeps
and
themselves
the young
pure,
one spoken
and they
to
become the idea of royalty as a result of that. And then it gets corrupted over time, and then you end up with Queen Victoria or Mad King George or something like that. And so, it becomes outmoded for human experience. It seems like maybe, and you can tell me this is true or not, that the Mars push is about instituting a new royalty based on new discoveries, and that'll be the cutting edge of science, because these guys have a new history, but it's not the actual history.
It's not the actual history, because as you've mentioned, even in Katie's work, there is this discussion about these two groups that are competing. And these two different versions that pretty much are competing, and kind of like during the golden ages, they come for the higher line comes forward, is revealed and sets the new pattern, and there's these beautiful initiations that happen and beautiful evolutions, and then as we kind of go into a darker age, we become more dull and more diluted, and then the darker lines come in. We become closer to the kind of lower astral plane, and then they sort of get control for a while. So there's this rising and falling that's very signature to these two lines of turning. And they really do represent what you could call an organic timeline, which is connected to Christ consciousness or the Christ impulse. And then there is an inorganic timeline, which is kind of like, I guess you could call it an anti-Christ timeline that includes hyper-scientism, transhumanism, an obsession with hybridization and genetic engineering. And you can really see that obsession with hybridization and genetic engineering when you look at their origin story, because that origin story is basically all about them being these creator gods that genetically manipulate everyone and everything to create people, and that human beings were basically once apes that were genetically modified to be people. And then there's this pure line of God beings are the ones that are the king lineage, and it's completely and utterly it's just saturated ufology. It's saturated the new age. Even the best researchers are falling prey to this because they see that there is something strange about our DNA. And automatically think that, okay, well, because there's been some DNA stuff going on, that automatically means that was our creation point. That because there was something messed around, or looks like, or we're told there's something messed around in there, because we don't understand it, that automatically means that we were spliced. And so that is that dangerous belief system that is the tenet of the Mars origin myth and the entire propaganda that I speak about in Mars Mysteries.
It is. Absolutely. Well, because what it does is it takes that nation story and it scientificizes it.
Twists it on
Makes
its
it like
head.
you can't, like we're all just sitting here waiting to have our genetics spliced so that we can finally evolve. Right, like we don't have any ability to
False flag, watch out
evolve
for
on
that.
our own, that we're basically these children sitting here. And it's ridiculous because it completely negates the original tradition, which is what you were talking about. It's in Casey's work with the Emilius group. It's
Blue
the
Sky set
foundation
4_6042 04393340 6531007.pdf.
Healing our karma through healing ourselves and through taking on more and more Christ consciousness over time. And it does involve connecting with different planets at certain times. And there is an interplanetary aspect, but these planetary bodies are more like a school. It's more like we're being initiated. And they're all interwoven with each other in a very specific scientific way. And so all of these very beautiful, traditional, mystical ideas.
Her eyes are a very strange colour, unless it's a camera.
About how we evolve as a planet.
And I like the name Dark Journalist.
And
Blue Sky said Canadian diplomats rebranding
hyper-materialistic.
used white matter fiber density.
And it's to the point where, I mean, if you look at Eric von Daniken's work, and you look at Zecharia Sitchin's work, it has been invested in and propagated so much that we have Ancient Aliens at this point, which is arguably one of the biggest shows you can find on the alien topic. So if people are skeptical of this, then please ask why is there so much money going into this exact mythos when it contradicts the natural and traditional teachings of creation? You know? So
Yeah.
Gaia is a big one.
Yeah.
Now they propagate the alien origin, alien creator god mythos heavily. They have some good teachers on there. It's not all or nothing, but they are also huge propagators of this myth to the point that most of the shows that they've chosen to advertise are directly propagating this myth. So we have to ask ourselves, why is so much money being investigated in propagating this unnatural idea about who we are?
Right. This becomes a kind of space propaganda.
Yes, and it leads to, as you mentioned, it could potentially lead to one day people going to Mars or maybe even the moon, because they've hinted at both. One day going to Mars and the moon and then finding this DNA there, or finding bodies there, because they've already laid the track down for themselves as propaganda piece for decades. I mean, von Daniken's books came out in the late 60s and now Ancient Aliens and Gaia. Because they inflated this, that if they were to find some kind of DNA, we already know the story. And you get surprised how fast people can shift when they find evidence, scientific evidence for something. The craziest theories can be proven true. And it's different when somebody doesn't believe something because it makes them uncomfortable, and someone who doesn't believe something because they're educated on the topic, right? So,
Well, I think about that think tank of Navy people and CIA people who try to recruit vets in Catherine Austin Fitts in the late 90s, and they were saying, we want to study the impact of what the knowledge of ET life on Earth will be in the general public. And this is something that they did at the Brookings Institute during the Kennedy administration. They also studied it, and they said it's, it'll wreck religion, basically.
Yeah, it will.
If that was to be found out. That was their take on it in that era. And Howard's era, that whole run that he met with Pleiadians, and they offered him all this spiritual advice. It's like, well, can you give us tech?
exactly. And isn't that actually, now that you mentioned that, isn't that such a symbolic action between the Amelius group and the Belial group?
Yes.
They both exist. They both exist. They both have access to the planet.
Right.
And one is listen. How you evolve is through spirituality. It is from the top down and then from the bottom up. That's how we evolve. And then you have this other group that's like, I'll give you whatever, I'll give you power. It's the Faustian bargain. I'll give you weapons. I'll give you whatever. Just let us have access to you.
Yes.
Let us have access to you, and I'll give you whatever you want. And so it's the perfect example of these two groups that you've mentioned, the Amelius group and the Belial group, how they operate, what they offer you, and what they stand for is that Eisenhower story.
It is. That's almost like a space mirror for those things, too, because you could say that the grays really represent more of the Belial thread, and that the Pleiadians, as portrayed, represent the more Amelius style thread.
Yes, that's the interesting thing, is that the more that we get into the cosmos, the more that we get into space, we have to start to understand that we're not really looking at like physical locations. What we're looking at is time and density. And so a lot of what we're looking at are actually basically different versions of ourselves.
Right.
So the correct way, or the correct way to have contact, and how Atlantis, through my memories, is that you always approach the being as though they were another aspect of yourself. And that the only reason why you looked different than that being was because they were really encompassing a different evolutionary period of the Earth and a different evolutionary period of man. And the joy in contact was figuring out what that difference was and how you could learn from each other. And so it was known in Atlantis, and it's still known in the mystery schools, that that's how it was done. And you didn't look at this person or this being as though they were like necessarily physically from another world. That wasn't the primary paradigm that you viewed. Every planet is interconnected. So Earth is interconnected with Mars, and very close to the planets in our solar system, but also the whole cosmos is interconnected. And really, every planet formed at a different time and a certain density and is connected to the other one.
There you go. That's when you can watch more of this. And he has very interesting other website and a lot more. So I'll stop and I'll stop streaming. So for now, take care.